Okay, we're recording. Okay, we're going to review these PDFs in order to prepare ourselves for the second test we're going to have in our course, which is going to deal with verb phrases. Okay, so let's begin with this. Okay, a verb is a large class of words that indicate events and a state of affairs or which help qualify the reference of other verbs. We already talked about that. Also, Viber defines this as a class of words which have finite and non-finite forms and normally vary for present and past tense, a cover term for lexical and auxiliary verbs. The word verb, right? Then we're going to discuss the idea of finite and non-finite forms. Verb function and classes. Okay, we already talked a little bit about the idea of verbs being classified into two different categories, I would say, the main verb and the auxiliary verb. The main verb play a central role in clauses. They usually occur in the middle of a clause. They are the most important thing inside of the clause. Why is it the most important thing? It is the most important thing because without a verb phrase, you cannot have a clause. Por favor, anote eso en algún lado. Without a verb phrase, you cannot have a clause. Clauses, that is to say, the fourth, I think, morpheme, lexeme, phrase, clause, the fourth element within the grammatical hierarchy. One of its main key features is the fact that they are composed of one verb phrase plus other elements, right? So the verb phrase, that is to say, this structure composed by verbs, is a key feature of the clause, right? Without that feature, without that element, you cannot have a clause, okay? Main verbs determine the other clause elements, that is to say, they determine the Valency pattern. We're going to go a little deeper on that. What's a Valency pattern? A Valency pattern is a term with the same general meaning as verb subcategorization, verb pattern, or verb complementation. Those are other names given to this feature. Okay, let's go with the idea of Valency pattern now. Okay, Valency pattern now. Okay, so Valency patterns are, or a Valency pattern is the way in which we're going to create clauses. Okay, by the grammatical hierarchy, we already know that clauses, as the fourth element inside of the grammatical hierarchy, clauses are composed of phrases, right? So a group of phrases will create a clause. The Valency pattern then is the way in which we're going to arrange those phrases in meaningful items. Within the English language, we have several different Valency patterns. So, for example, we have the subject-verb, the subject-verb-object, subject-verb-object-adverbial, subject-verb-object, indirect object, and direct object, right? And subject-verb-complement, subject-verb-object complement. Those are Valency patterns, right? Like, for example, I play, I play football, I played, I played football yesterday, I bought you this. I am tall. I consider you tall. Okay. The idea is this. I'm going to review. A verb is a word class. Well, the term verb is given to a group of lexemes which entails the meaning of action. Those verbs can be classified into two, functional and lexical verbs. Functional verbs, they will specify the way in which we're going to understand the main verb, the lexical verb. Those are functional. Lexical verbs, on the other hand, they entail the most meaning. And on the other hand, they will provide the valency pattern, which is what we're seeing now. A valency pattern is the way in which we're going to create clauses. In English, we have several valency patterns. For example, the ones you're seeing, and the way in which they are working, or the way in which they are being created, will depend on the main verb. So, for example, in the first clause, I play, we have two different phrases. The main verb play then is creating these intransitives. I played football yesterday. I bought, sorry, I'm going to write it again. I bought, right? So again, the word play, the verb play, the main verb head, play, is requiring a subject. That verb is called intransitive. Why intransitive? Because it is not requiring any other element, any other object after it. You can see the difference with the second example. I play football. In the second example, you can see how this clause is composed of three elements: one subject, one verb, and then one object, right? The word play, the main verb head play, requires the presence of another element after it, another entity, therefore an object, right? This object, football, then is the receiver of the action of that verb. And it is required in order to understand, in order to fulfill the meaning of that main verb. On the other hand, the third example, I played football yesterday, you can see that this is composed of 4 different phrases, right? In this case, this is, and played is also considered to be transitive because it is also requiring the presence of an object after it, right? And then the presence of yesterday is providing extra information to the whole sentence, right? In the fourth example, we have something different. Well, we changed the main verb, right? We're using bought now. But the main verb bought is also producing a clause. This clause is also being composed of 4 different phrases, but here we have something different, right? In I bought you this, bought is the main verb, and it requires not 1 but 2 other elements after it in order to complete its meaning, right? The receiver, the direct receiver of the action, which is this, and then an indirect receiver, right? Which is you. Therefore, you can see there how a main verb is telling you the way in which you must write, you must produce that clause. And in the following, I am told, here you have again, right, 3 phrases with told as a complement, because it is adding information about the subject, not about the verb. And then finally, I consider you told. Again, we're working on this like that. And I consider you told, the verb consider is requiring 2 other elements. And it's a mixture between the previous example, I am told, and the I play football one, right? Because I considered what? I considered you, right? Wait. I considered you, right? Like that. And told, sorry. And told is also saying things about that. Okay. Chiquillos, se va a cortar, voy a cortar ahora, vuelvo en un minuto y si alguien tiene alguna duda me las hace de vuelta, ¿ya? Vengo de inmediato.